This is a question and answer session. So we are here to answer any questions that you may have. We have a lot of professionals and city staff here at your disposal, and you are one of the only ones on the call right now. So we are completely available to answer all of your questions.
First time to join. I'm actually at the gym, and I just figured I'd listen in. So
Ah,
I was just trying to multitask, so that's why I was staying muted.
okay. Were you able to? Oh well, if you're at the gym, were you able to watch the community meeting online?
No, I have not.
So I would say the biggest direction that I can give you is just go to civicmic.com/Fairfield, where you can watch a video on all the information about your district and listen to some of the other community members' questions. This is another opportunity for people to come and ask questions if after that meeting they thought of all their questions too late. So just so you know, that's how the format of this meeting is. So it might get quiet if you're just on and nobody comes and asks questions. We're really here just to answer questions.
Not a problem. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, just first time coming in, so I appreciate you telling me the format.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, John. Let's see. Have some questions that I've gotten from residents that I can ask you guys while we're here, and we can get some answers while we wait.
And Michelle, I just for the record, in case someone looks at the recording, is this PowerPoint presentation for this meeting today?
Oh yes, I'm sorry about
that. Oh yeah,
that.
I just want to, in case someone was like looking at the recording and they're like March 22nd.
Yeah, let me
just update that.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Good catch.
Yeah, very good catch.
No problem.
Oh man. Doing.
When are the actual ballots coming? I know they're due sometime in May, but are they coming soon or?
Actually, sorry,
go ahead, Chris. Okay. Yeah, the intent meeting is the first legislative action that will be on April 18th, and the ballots will come very shortly after that.
Okay.
So that I realize that's only a couple of weeks away at this point. So
yeah.
And the due date, Carolyn, just for reference, it's actually going to be due by June 6th, the close of the public hearing on June 6th. It has to be physically received by the city. We can't do any postmarks or anything like that.
Okay, June 6th. I'm going to write that down.
And then a couple of other things I'll note. Hi, Carolyn, this is Paul. A couple of additional outreach efforts that we're doing over the next few weeks include we're going to be deploying the city's changeable message boards, like the ones that you see like for construction projects. We're going to be deploying those at key roadways just to get the LLMD vote on people's radar, especially for those who aren't engaged in the process. Hopefully that'll trigger them to either talk to their neighbors or go to CivicMic for more information. So you can look out for that. It may be as soon as tomorrow, but definitely by next week, those will be on some of the key roadways. And then also we're working to finalize some flyers that will hit all the district property owners' mailboxes here in the next probably week or so, week or two. Again, it'll be high level information, really targeting the people who haven't been engaged in the process, but general information, and then again, go to CivicMic for more information. So it'll be hopefully catchy enough to where people will take a look at it as part of their mail, and then spark some conversation or questions.
Okay, sounds good. So I know at the last meeting you were talking about that there's going to be a committee that people can volunteer to be on to talk about the landscaping once the vote is in. Is that going to happen if the vote, if it doesn't pass, is that still going to happen?
It is still going to be happen. I can take that question. Yeah, it's actually the period for to receive applications is actually open now. So on the city's website, there's trying to find let's see, yeah, Landscape Oversight Committee applications. You can download it from the city's website, and the deadline to apply is June 9th with the idea. Oh, thanks, Chris. So yeah, you'll see Chris put it in the chat, the website link, Carolyn, where you can find that information. It has applications that you can download to submit, and then the city council or a subcommittee of the city council will be doing interviews and selecting candidates.
Okay. And that's really the place where people can talk about what they want to see, or how the money's being spent, or what improvements can be made, or what has to be taken away if the vote doesn't pass, and those kinds of things.
Yeah, all of the above. Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And just to add to that, Carolyn, this landscape committee won't be restricted to just making decisions on the landscape and lighting maintenance districts. This committee will have oversight over landscape citywide. So yeah, so it won't, while the LLMDs will be a part of the discussion, it's not going to be the primary focus. Or the only focus. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a part of the discussion at the city council meeting where the topic of the oversight committee was discussed, and the primary reasoning from the council was, well, there's a lot of areas around the city that aren't incorporated into an LLMD, but landscaping in those areas are also important, and so this is something that should be discussed as well as this committee is being formed.
Thank you for your questions, Carolyn.
Oh, you're welcome. My brain is working.
I have some questions from the survey and from online that we can definitely answer now. So one of the questions that we got was, how much does it cost to run just one 218 election?
So the city has contracted with NBS for approximately $45,000 to $50,000 per district to provide us with an engineering analysis, a financial analysis, and also the entire Prop 218 balloting process. So, developing the legal documentation, sending out the ballots, helping us with the tabulation and so forth. So that's how much it costs for that effort per district.
Thanks, guys. The other one is, let's see. Oh, can you, and this is specifically for LLMD 8. Can you provide details on the 23-24 budget if the initiative fails?
Sure. Details on the budget. Let me just go ahead and pull up so I can reference this real quick. So the district currently receives about $52,000. Am I on mute? Okay. This district currently receives about $52,000 in special assessment revenue, and that is capped because because the assessment rate for each parcel is capped at $400. So, barring any expansion of the district boundaries to include any, adjacent parcels, we won't be collecting any more revenue in the existing district as it stands right now. The expenses for this district are just right around $55,000 to $65,000 in 2021. Our actual expenses were close to $66,000. And based on the budget that we are proposing to be able to continue services and not reduce any services, and also to have contingency in our budget to make sure we can take care of any unexpected or emergency type repairs, and make sure that we have our trees on a regular maintenance schedule for full pruning and not just walkway clearance, but actual full tree care. And there's also in our proposed budget, we have irrigation, parts and repairs, and like I said, contingency and reserves. So Our proposed budget is $123,000. So considering that the existing district only collects $52,000 in assessment revenue, and where we think in order to be able to maintain services, we're estimating we need to have at least $123,000 per year. If this new district is not formed, we will have about a 50% deficit in our budget beginning July 1st, 2023.
All right, I'm going to keep going. So in a previous meeting, it was mentioned that ballots would be available to the public as public record after the casting of the ballot. Concerning this public availability, under what authority is this permissible? There were some people who were concerned about that. And we stated it's not like it's going to be on a billboard. It would be it would be at City Hall that you could collect those records, correct?
Yeah, and I will have to look up the specific citation to the section of the law that says this, but it is part of the language in Proposition 218 and the implementation statutes, and there was also case law around this coming out of the town of Tiburon. Oh gosh, it's been several years ago now. I don't remember specifically what year, but mid 2000s is my recollection, and it is again required by the provisions of Proposition 218.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna keep going. Unless John or Carolyn, do you have any follow-up questions to any of those?
Just maybe you guys could reiterate what was talked about at the last meeting, that regarding the budget. I think, I don't remember if it was Sarah or Christina was talking about that if we had increases all along over the last 30 years, that we would, or if you adjusted for inflation in terms of the costs that we paid, that it would be equivalent or more than what you're asking for now. Does that sound familiar to anybody, or am I making that up?
Yeah, so we are talking about 3 different districts here, so it might be a little bit different for each of the ones.
That's true.
But Sarah, I'm gonna let you take that one on.
Yeah, let me grab that data. So I have that right here at my fingertips for each of the districts. I pulled up a bunch of data, but it was, with the 3 districts, I am maybe over prepared and have too many things open. So, all right. So I just want to make sure I'm addressing the 3 districts. So we have 3, 6, and 8. And I will grab that information. So for district number 3, the calculations that we have show that had the rate increased by CPI from the original, that original assessment amount, it would now be at right in the range of $400 per parcel, or for single family residential. And the proposed rate on average looks like it is just over 600. So the comparing what you're currently paying to the new rate doesn't account for all of that inflation that has occurred over time. And so that's why we wanted to kind of make that comparison for you to say, if there had been a CPI inflator, that current rate for LMD3 would be just over $400. For LMD6, it is about $125 is what the current rate would be had it been inflated. And then for 8, it is about $853 roughly on average for the single family residential property.
Okay.
This is a question for LLMD 8 as well. It says, will the scope of services covered by the assessment remain the same, including tree maintenance, watering, mowing, weed pulling, and shrub pruning along Waterman and Oliver Road?
Yes, that is the intent, to not increase or decrease services, but to just maintain the current levels.
And then the other one is the city currently paying for the upkeep of the hill, and could the district funds be used for this purpose if residents wanted them?
So if residents wanted it, was that the last part of that question?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I believe, and let me just double check real quick, the engineer's report and the scope of work that's outlined in the engineer's report. Okay, so the engineer's report does allow this district to take care of open space, to maintain open space, including fire breaks within the boundaries of this district. And so at present, the district is only taking care of those fire breaks, and there's a little bit of, I don't know if it's open space or just kind of natural area behind Gillespie Drive or behind the homes on Gillespie Drive. So the intent of this current district and the proposed district is to be able to just take care of those fire breaks. Now, if the residents wanted to be able to maintain Spyglass Hill or that open space area in any other, if they wanted to use those LLMD funds to do full weed abatement, maybe on the entire hill, or, I'm not sure what else you would do to maintain the open space. Now, Sarah, this is where I'm going to have to ask you if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think from year to year, as long as we don't increase anybody's assessment rates, we can include in the engineer's report details on which open space or what we want to do to the open space from year to year. So if someone's like, we don't want to just do fire breaks, we want to mow the whole hill, we can include those details in the engineer's report from year to year, as long as we're not increasing the assessment rates for everybody. Is that a correct statement, Sarah?
Yeah. I mean, as long as the improvements are generally in line with what the district is already providing, so you can't all of a sudden start paying for a service that was never mentioned in the engineer's reports at all. But you could certainly transition from just weed abatement to a more landscaped area, providing that you had funding to do that work.
So this is Carolyn. So my understanding is right now the city is taking care of cutting the grass or the weeds on the hill, and they come once a year, probably June, something like that. And then our District 8 money is paying to clear out the there's a culvert at the bottom of hill. The hill runs down to the homes, and there's a culvert that runs around the edge, so that we're responsible for paying for them for clearing of the culvert, which I guess that would be the fire break. I don't know if that's considered the fire break or there's something else that I'm missing, but that was what the information that I'm telling you right now was what I was told by Michael Fox, one of my other neighbors that had spoken to somebody at the city about what exactly was being provided for the open space hill.
So that's first, to answer your first question, it is correct that the city's other funding, not LLMD funds, are paying to maintain the hill for like the weed abatement and the cutting of the grass on Spyglass Hill itself. As far as the cleaning of the culverts, I'd have to confirm with our operations team. Unfortunately, a last minute scheduling conflict came up and they weren't able to attend, but I can definitely get back to you on that. We could post like this FAQs. Michelle, I don't know if we have like a after meeting posting, right? To where we can include that information, whether or not the LLMD pays for the cleaning of the culverts, mucking out the, debris and whatever else that might land in the area.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can definitely get, we are going to do like a follow-up to the FAQ with any questions that maybe came after that have been being asked a lot, we can definitely follow up with those questions. The other question that we have is, has the city considered using drought tolerant or low maintenance landscaping for Oliver and Waterman, sorry.
I would say, yes, I don't have any, haven't had any formal, or official, what do you call it, studies, or, a landscape architect come in and give us a cost and an analysis of what it would actually take to convert that area to drought tolerant, plants. I know it's been a discussion, not just, internally with staff, but also a discussion with other residents in other districts, and even just, around the city. At this time, I think it's remained just discussions at this point, but especially as we come into a time when, landscaping in general throughout the entire city, it's just very, very costly to maintain. And just today we heard some new information about potentially restrictions on water use in the future coming down from the state. It's definitely an option, and definitely something we want to make sure we're looking at. And I think this is a good item for the landscape committee to help us make some decisions on.
Thanks, Chris. And so this is a question that we received as well. And so maybe you can clarify this a little bit, Sarah, by talking about general and special benefit. It said, is it accurate that the maintenance costs along the city streets leading to Rancho Solano Golf Course are delegated only to the 128 homeowners in the district, in the Kolob district?
One moment. I was gonna pull up, do you have one of the maps handy that we could pull up and kind of take a look at? I just want to make sure I'm clear on what specific landscaping is being referred to.
So I'm gonna stop sharing to find that map. Let me pull up Kolob.
Because in the Kolob Estates district, the landscaping that's being maintained is along Oliver Road, and also along Waterman Boulevard. And then there is a high weed mowing area that is kind of on the corner that is kitty corner from the Oliver Waterman intersection of the district. If you sort of a rectangular shaped district, and then if you go kind of all the way kitty corner over off of Gillespie Drive, kind of behind those homes, that's where that high weed mowing area is. So sorry, repeat the question. They're talking about the entrance to Rancho Solano, but this but relative to the Kolob district? As I'm not sure I'm understanding the question.
So I think what their concern is that the street leads to the Rancho Solano golf course, and they're confused if the Kolob district is paying for all the maintenance cost of that street.
So we are recognizing the pass-through traffic on Waterman. So if the concern is that we have folks who are traveling down Waterman or even down Oliver Road on their way to golf in Rancho Solano, we are recognizing pass-through traffic along those streets in terms of the general benefit calculation. So those folks who are passing by, again on Waterman or Oliver Road, passing by these improvements, are part of that pass-through traffic calculation, which is, again, how we calculate that general benefit. And the general benefit is not assessed to properties in the district. It is paid for by the city's general fund.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's see. The next question is, and this one may be for Chris. So it says, what specific reductions in services can be expected if the initiative does not pass? And you can answer, this is for 8, but you can definitely answer it for all of them, Chris. It might be good for others to know if they watch the video.
Sure, no problem. So at this point in time, we do not have details on what specific reductions would be reduced in any district if the new districts did not pass or the new assessment rates were not approved. There's a few reasons for this. One is that there's likely an unlimited combination of the types of services that can be provided for the amount of money that we'll have available to us for the, under the old districts. This is something that we're going to really probably want to get our community members involved with too, because let's say, we have an option between trimming the shrubs more often or doing more weed, abatement type of, weed killer, spraying more weed killer. What's going to be more important to the residents? Do they care if they have unruly bushes, or do they just want the grass to be free of weeds? You know what I mean? So there's quite a few combinations that we can, that could potentially be provided given the limited amount of revenue. So I don't have that information right now. And if in any specific district, I was going to try to look up what is being, let me see. Let me just look at the Kolob district, for example. Staying with that same example. So as I mentioned, Kolob currently receives only $52,000 in assessment revenue. We're projecting their landscape maintenance to be about $40,000, but their irrigation, the water servicing their areas, to be about $35,000. So, do we cut irrigation by, 40% or 60%, or do we cut landscape maintenance by 50 or 60% so that everybody can still have access to their water on their landscape strip? So that's why it's a little difficult to give specifics on what's going to actually be reduced.
Thank you, Chris. And I am gonna, just for Kolob in the video, since this question did come out, I am gonna put the slide up of if the new district is not approved that you had in the presentation. If you wanted to just maybe touch base on that. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Sorry, yeah, could you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, so it's if the new district is not approved, you have a table there that shows that amount. I just said that I was going to share it. And it
yeah,
kind of
okay,
just,
I know the slide that I was like, yeah.
Yes. So this is the slide for anybody who's watching or
Right.
anybody who's watching after.
Yeah, so as we mentioned, assessments are about 52,000. We get a general fund contribution of about $1,000. So total revenue is $53,000. Once we back out the costs for street lights and administrative services, we're left with only $35,000 for landscape, which includes irrigation. So it's going to be landscape services and irrigation. And I just mentioned that the current proposed budget for landscape alone, landscape maintenance services, it's about $40,000, and irrigation, the water itself, is about $35,000. Then when you throw in irrigation repairs, estimated at about $14,000, you see what I'm saying? We could reduce any one of those in any proportion. It's kind of unlimited. The combinations are sort of unlimited, and so we have to be strategic about it to make sure that we're not reducing, for example, shrub pruning to the point where we don't have our proper walkway clearances. So we'd have to get with our field team, our operations team, to make sure we know, no, we actually have to trim those bushes every 2 weeks, because otherwise, it is a safety hazard type of thing. So that's definitely a consideration, and it takes a little bit more than just a 50% reduction in budget means a 50% reduction in services, because it just doesn't, in reality, it doesn't equate that way.
Right. And then, of course, Chris, just talking about, of course, as prices continue to increase, like those services would more than likely continue to go down and be removed slowly. For sure.
Yeah, that's a great point, Michelle. Thank you. Yeah.
And I think that was kind of my point earlier, that the homes have been here for 30 years and there hasn't been an increase. I mean, there was an attempt to increase in our district 8 years ago, which was voted down. And so the amount of money that we're paying has basically been, for our district, aid has stayed the same for 30 years. And so if you account for inflation, the price of milk is not the same as it was 30 years ago. The prices of everything have gone up. So that's just, a point to consider when you're thinking about how you want to vote for this, that there is an inflation factor that's built in here. With that last slide, for the lighting, if this is to not pass, are they going to turn the streetlights off, or is that something that's guaranteed to stay because of safety issues, or does anybody know?
So, the $52,000 will be available. Of course, that has to be approved by the city every single year. The district is in place until this council dissolves it. But the levying and collection of actual assessments has to be approved by council every single year. I imagine that council would continue to levy that amount, or the amount needed to at least pay for streetlights. If in 30, 40 years, I mean, I don't know, we don't know, with inflation the way it is, 20, 30, 40 years, if streetlights cost more than $52,000, will the decision be made to, turn off the streetlights or reduce the amount of time that the streetlights are on in the middle of the night? I don't know. I feel like that's more of, it's not anything I don't think I can answer.
Yeah. No, I just was wondering, like, somebody would have that question, like, well, if we're going to cut back, are you going to cut back on the services of the lighting for the district?
Yeah, I would say the only thing I would add to that is, from a practical standpoint, nobody really wants to turn the lights off. I think that would probably be from a public works standpoint and recommendation, that would likely be the last thing that we would recommend cutting. But I think, and Sarah can correct me if I'm wrong, I think NBS has some experience in the past, or at least is knowledgeable of a district, not in Fairfield, of a district having to do that because there were no funds available to provide those services. And so, not to be doom and gloom, but it is a potential outcome for any given district if there's not enough funds to provide any services.
Good to know.
Yeah, and we have seen some of that, whether it's parks that get a fence put up around them so that they are not usable by the public because there's no funding, and literally all of the amenities, and the landscaping certainly dies and so forth, and then any other amenities are fenced off from the public being able to access, to streetlights being turned off. That unfortunately is a reality in some communities when the budget just doesn't allow for them to keep those on. So, I have seen it happen. Will it happen here? I think, again, it's just prioritizing. If this increase of assessments is not approved, it's just a matter of prioritizing the budget that is available. And there is money available, right? There is that existing assessment, to some degree that there is some money available, but it'll just have to be matched with what the cost of service is and what can be provided.
Thank you, Sarah. For Kolob Estates, Chris, do you have on hand the last time the district costs went up? Or sorry, not the district cost, but the assessment went up.
Sure. Let me take a look. So there was a balloting in 2003. I want to say that $400, and I'm trying to look for the resolution right now, that set the max. I don't have that in front of me right now, but in 2003, there was a balloting process to increase from 400 to, I think, 450. So at least before 2003, the assessment rate has been $400,000. Like I said, I'm trying to find it. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. Yeah.
That's my understanding too, is that it hasn't changed because it was voted down. I don't know that there was another vote. I could be wrong. It was a lot busier then and now those days.
Yeah, man, 2022 doesn't seem, I mean, sorry, 2002 doesn't seem that long ago to me. But then when I think of it, I'm like, oh man, that was 21 years ago.
It's a long time ago.
What was it? 2000 wasn't that long ago, right? Carolyn, as you've been talking to people in your neighborhood, I know you said you and Mike have, are there any questions that like keep coming up that maybe have been more difficult for you to answer?
That's a good question. Michael's done more than I have. I've kind of reached out to people and haven't got people to text me back, but let's see.
I know there's also a lot of information on CivicMic.com, and we did come out with that FAQ, which answers a lot of the questions that people have been having too. So if you don't have to come up with anything, right? Don't rack your brain too hard.
That's okay. Yeah, I can't off the top of my head remember. I mean, there were things that I kind of probably could have generally answered for them. I can't think of anything that was obvious at this point in my brain. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Carolyn. One question that I got, Chris, from Peppertree, LLMD 6, was if trash pickup was included on the horseshoe, and how often that was done. I know was a question that I got a couple of times. So maybe we can answer that on here as well.
Sure. Trash pickup is included as part of the landscaping contract, but the trash that the landscape contractors would pick up would be in the landscaped areas. If we're talking about trash in the streets, and that would be under the street sweeping services that are provided separate from the LLMD services. And that I don't know how often the street sweepers come through the district on Peppertree.
Yeah, so I think that they were talking about in the landscaping. I think some what I heard from the last person I talked to was that sometimes the park blows in trash and it's like stuck on the trees and the bushes and stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was a question that they had is how often will they do that?
So it'll be picked up in the landscape areas weekly.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. All right, Carolyn, just so you know, you are definitely more than welcome to stay. But we have answered all the questions that I've gotten. And so if somebody comes back on and asks more questions, of course we will be here, but don't feel the need to stick around if
okay, I can be dismissed.
You're not being dismissed. You can 100% stay, and we can.
No. I'm just joking with you. I'm just joking with you. No, that's fine. I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this, and I'm sure we'll talk again sometime. Anyway,
thank you. We will be here till 7 though. We'll be sticking around just to make sure in case there's anybody else who logs on. So
okay.
Thank you so much for coming out or logging in today.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.